Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ezzrath Baht Shem, born, slave name Sandra, black. Today I'd like to talk to you about our history that set us on this path that we live in today. One of the major things that very few people know, and it is not taught in school, is that everything we're living today was being lived 5,000 years ago. The laws that we go by, it's just copycat laws. The saying that when you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it, is not something that's just made up. It's really a serious cliche that does represent what's going on with the human race. We have been doomed to repeat a lie, an utter lie, that we must have poor people, we must have the rich, and we must help and do everything possible to keep the rich rich and empowered. Now, really, if you stop and think about it, it sounds ridiculous as to how did we human beings come up with accepting that the very few on the earth should own everything while everybody else shares the crumbs. It's even unimaginable. And I mean, let's give it a picture where you can picture this. Picture this. You are in a room. There are 100 of you people. 100 of us. All of us. And the kidnappers that have put us locked in this room brings 10 pizzas and says this is for everybody to share. That represents our earth and the earth's raw resources for everybody to share with 7 billion people. And then the kidnappers leave, and we 100 people all see the 10 boxes of food, and one man stands up on the table and says, I must have all of them, and I'll give you trickle down what you're going to get, because that's the way it has to be. It's always been like that, and we can't do it any other way. Now, common sense, we know we would never, 100 people in the same room, looking at these 10 pizzas, allow that one guy to hoard all 10 pizzas and share the crumbs with the rest of the 99. But in fact, and in reality, that is how humanity is lived. And until we wake up and realize that this is what's happening, and the only way to stop it is for the people to come together and say no more. The deep part, and I'm not going to make this video long. I just want to go into the deep part of what causes it to be so powerful. From the beginning, human beings are more like sheeple or sheep, and as people who prefer being told everything that we have to do, and this is the only way it can be done, and it's always been done this way, so it's the only way, even though, yes, it's always been done this way, but it doesn't work, and it's never worked. We will do it. So what they do is they divide the human species. And I think one of the original divisions was by sex within the patriarchal society. And what the patriarchal society said was that women were inferior to men. They were nasty creatures that needed to be controlled, that were so evil that even their sins could not be held against them, that it was their man's responsibility. The men were responsible for keeping that woman in line, and any lack of weakness within the man proved how no good the man was. So if you look at and this is in the Bible, that a woman is so nothingness that only her husband can account for her sin. She can't even account for her own sin. And her husband has to correct her. And if he doesn't, he is supposed to be stoned, killed, if he doesn't correct her. Now, this is the beginning of separating the species, because now you have 50% of the people on top and the other 50% of the people are on bottom. And there's always going to be suffering when you have people on top and people on bottom. So that was the beginning. And then was a vicious, continuous cycle. The Europeans are not the first to impose oppression on one group of people. And when we get this in our head, that everything that we're suffering from is from the beginning of the patriarchal society, not the beginning of humanity, but the beginning of the patriarchal society. And realize the setup, because even that setup is higher than humanity itself. And that's a very deep thing that I'm explaining to you when I explain to you the setup of humanity to be separated and to put the few on top and the rest on the bottom began with what they call the gods, the Nephilim. Another word is Anunaki. If you do not know these words, you do not understand how much you have been deprived of knowledge that is available out there. So what these so-called gods or Anunnaki, who are just beings like us, but they were creating our species, they intended on us to be their slaves. And they're spoken about in the Bible. I believe it's Genesis 6 and Genesis 11th chapter. Both of those books talk about the Anunnaki, or the Nephilim, as they're called Nephilim in the Bible. But they're Anunnaki. And when they used test tube babies, mixing the sperm of Anunnaki or Nephilim, or as the Bible would call it, the sons of God, came in unto the daughters of was it earth? The daughters of man. Okay. So all of that's either in chapter 6 or chapter 11, which I'm coming to chapter 11. So what they were doing was trying to create this worker race of people to steal all of the gold, or to mine the gold, which we have been doing from the beginning of time for these beings. And that's the reason why there is no gold among mankind compared to the gold that has been mined. Okay? So if you compare the gold to the gold that has been mined, we human beings probably share 10% of that amongst ourselves. And the rest of that is going to them. And all of the oppression and the suffering to keep us down and dumbed down is to keep us enslaved to them. Now, when they originally started doing this, you could see that in Genesis, the 11th chapter. And in the 11th chapter, what they said is that they asked God, a higher God, to let us make a man. This is with the creation of man. They said, let us make a man. So every time we're asking questions, this is the gods, we're asking permission. And that's the reason why the Bible reads it like this. Now, the Bible, religious people look at it as a sacred book. The bottom line is it's a piece of literature that most people like to pretend that it doesn't even exist, okay? Which we know they're delusional. Whoever tries to say that there is no such book as the Bible, or now, as far as it being sacred, yeah. I mean, it's just a written book, but this document contains the power to know who we are and where we came from is written within it. And well, how do you come to the conclusion of knowing that it contains this information? And what you have to do is use common sense. It's a copycat book. There's many cultures who have told the same story all over Earth. Okay. And for that to just happen by coincidence, to me, to even say that is even more delusional than to say that what these people were writing about was an experience that they were actually having. Okay, the Mayan have wrote about it over here in America. Other Native American cultures have written about it. The West Africans in the Iafa have written about it. Egypt, all of the Middle East, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Moors, everybody has written about this information that is also contained in the Bible about how the gods came to the earth and created mankind. Now, so in basically where religion tries to put it as this is a supernatural being, in reality is no different than how your father came in unto your mother and created you. You know, it's the same thing. So in chapter 11, the importance of it is when these gods get angry talking about how human beings are going to be able to be like the gods, that there would be nothing from within their imagination that would be reframed from them. And if you can't see that as a form of oppression, you know, then you are religiously bound, because no mother or father, I don't care, even who is going to tell their child that, oh, you're going to be better than me, so therefore I'm going to make you retarded? I mean, and people believe that this is what God would do, you know? Well, the people were saying that I can aspire to be like God, you know, so therefore I'm going to come down and confound their language and make them retarded. You know, no, what happened is that you had beings just like ourselves who had created us for a purpose, and they didn't love us. They used us, just like how when you are, it's the same thing like when you're breeding your dog and you're mixing dogs together and you're using them for your purpose to sell them or whatever. There is no difference. You know, there may be a little love in there for your puppies, but there is no difference from what our creation is. And then with that, what they did was to keep us divided so we would never ask about the resources and how we are kept with the vast majority. See, Americans don't realize how the majority of the human race lives poor, dirt poor, to next to nothing. And when we say nothing, we don't mean like nothing in, you know, I'm wondering about why I have to eat beans and rice today. I'm talking about no meals for 2 or 3 days, nothing. And for some people, they die with no meals because of this. So I want you guys to really take a moment to think about what I'm talking about. And I'm going to start sharing a series of just really getting into the history and getting into the evidence and the various books that are on, well, not books, scrolls, the ancient scripture. or the ancient, we shouldn't call it scripture, the ancient literature. That's what we need to call it. That's all it is the ancient literature, which was written by real life people, actually. And they talked about having these laboratories and manufacturing human beings. So to be able to talk about it means that whether it happened then or whatever, it means that there is some kind of reality of them knowing about it. And so this is what I wanted to present to the people. And I would like for you to subscribe, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting in links, and I'm going to start giving background for you guys to understand our history, and hopefully have a heart to realize that fighting each other, that, it's the poor people that are causing all the trouble. These people that don't want anything. Who is it born that doesn't want anything? Come on. It's a society that we are creating that creates hopelessness. It creates criminals. It creates addictions and depression and mental illness and disease. And our government, it loves to just allow corporations to do GMOs that they know are causing cancer, the air that they're polluting with the chemtrails, the vaccines, the mercury that's in the vaccine, and metals, and just all kind of toxins and poisons. And that's the reason why our testing today, we're almost mentally retarded compared to the way we were in the early 1900s. We're really dumbing ourselves down by turning our backs and not opening our eyes to realize what is going on with our government and the global elite. There, I said it. The global elite. And the global elite is not Oprah. Oprah is a welfare person compared to the people I'm talking about. Okay? And I'll name them. The Rothschilds. The royals, the Queen of England. How about your Pope, the Catholic Church? All of this right here is the ball, or the cabal. That's the better one. The cabal that is puppeted by those who feel they own us because they created us. Now, take that to the bank and subscribe, and I'm going to document and show you the evidence of what I'm saying is true. Have a good day. Be blessed, and think about your contribution to coming to the earth, this trip. We're not just here to party or to watch a movie. We're here for a purpose. And I'm hoping that you'll come back to my channel. And again, my name is Ezzrath Baht Shem, and thank you very much.